Welcome back to the Energetics Podcast. I am your host, Kara Bunde-Dunn, and today I am so excited to introduce to you someone who brings a truly powerful and grounded perspective to the world of healing and transformation. Anna Krishtal is a certified integrative hypnotherapist, yoga and meditation instructor, and the host of the podcast Ketamine Connections, if that's a little cue into what we might be talking about. She specializes in subconscious transformation and psychedelic integration, helping clients navigate big inner shifts with clarity and support. Whether you're curious about the science, the spirituality, or the somatic wisdom behind this kind of work, Anna brings it all together in a way that is both accessible and expansive. So, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much. I just want to go like this, open my arms up wide for expansive on that
That's
note.
right. Expand on in here, girl.
Amen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here. And we were in a business mastermind last year. That's how we met each other. And I just loved your vibe. And we talked about this in December, having you come on the pod and talk about this. So I'm so glad we finally got it scheduled and we're in and we're here. So,
Amen. I will tell you, Kara, that I, in human design, that I don't know much about, but I do know one thing, that I have the gene of divine timing. So I
oh,
just trust
lovely.
the divine timing of everything. So I'm really happy to be here with you on April 8th.
April 8th. I don't know if I have the gene of divine timing, but I'd like to think I'm at least in sync with it. You know what I mean?
You've got something better. You've got the whole spirit squad. I call it my spiritual support squad,
Love
right?
it.
You've got them just like moving things out of the way and directing your path. It's the same thing.
Yeah, so people call it their light team, their spirit squad, their light
Yeah.
crew, all the fun names.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so I want to start with just your own personal journey and what inspired you to transform from the corporate and business world to becoming a hypnotherapist and psychedelic integration coach. Like, do you want to anchor us in with your own personal journey?
Absolutely. Where do I begin? So a lot of times when people hear corporate career and leaving corporate career, they think, oh, it was toxic, it was difficult, it was unfulfilling, it wasn't soulful, which is the opposite of my experience.
Nice.
My corporate career was in international education. So I got to coordinate and lead study abroad. And for the big portion of that, I was doing inbound programs to New York City. And so I had a really fun job. I
Yeah,
had a
totally.
corporate credit card for whatever Broadway show, whatever tour, whatever restaurant. And so when spirit or whatever, intuition, guidance, whatever you want to call it, started kind of gearing me into a different direction, I was very resistant. I was not keen to that path. And so here's what happened. So I had heard about psychedelics and I had experimented with psychedelics when I was a kid, at parties and things. And I was not prepared for what happened in 2018. So in 2018, I went into a psychedelic ceremony with the absolute worst intention that I would never let a client go into a ceremony with.
Okay,
And I
do
thought it was great.
tell.
Okay.
What was your worst intention? Do
I know.
tell.
The worst intention was I want to cut ties with the past and float away into a bright future. I wasn't prepared for how many attachments I had to that
Oh,
past.
so boy, did they
Yeah.
show themselves.
They revealed themselves rather
Mm.
quickly. Night 2 of 3. And yeah, it was gnarly. It was one of the most challenging nights of my life. It taught me a lot about shadow work and things like that. There's
Sure.
so many silver linings, but that's what happened. I went into the psychedelic ceremony with just very blind faith that my meditation, yoga, hypnosis, like all of these things that I was already doing for so many years, all of these practices that I had, that they were going to get me through to the other side. There was very little talk about preparation. The preparation that I received was really focused on 3D things like
Like the health.
diet.
Mm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
diet, screen time, things like that. But there was no psychological, mental preparation at all. And I didn't think I needed it. I didn't know what I didn't know. And
Sure.
so I went into this weekend, I come out of it and I realize everything's about to change. And then I went into a really, really dark night of the soul. I did cut ties with the past, but not in the way that I thought it was going to be. I think I had some Pollyanna sort of like rainbow bridge of like, I'm just gonna sail free into a bright future. And I know that's possible with the right support and guidance. That's not what I had.
Sure.
I had a, one and done ceremony with no follow-up, no preparation. And so I dove into a dark night of the soul
Mm,
and was kind of, and it was so mixed feelings because on the one hand, my dreams were starting to come true. Like I had stopped drinking alcohol and was able to stop for more than 30 days for the first time in 2 years. I had already been trying to quit alcohol for 2 years. Couldn't do it after one weekend. It's now going on 7 years of no
yeah.
alcohol.
Hmm.
Yeah. So there was a lot of like, whoa, the things that I want to do are coming true, but also what's going on? Why, how, what happened to me? I was very confused about what happened to me. What did the drugs do to me was
Yeah.
my big question.
Right.
And so yeah, so I started, I was already working as a hypnotherapist, so I left my corporate job to pursue that full time. I said, I don't know what's going on with this hypnosis practice, but I'm seeing people's lives change really rapidly. There was restructuring at my work. I manifested a promotion that was my exit out of there. I didn't see it at the time. I thought I
Did
was
that too.
climbing. Yeah, I thought I was climbing the corporate ladder, but it was really my eloquent goodbye to
Yeah,
that
there was
world.
actually a door that opened on the side and out you went.
Out I went. Yeah, so it was a little confusing because I was so happy to be making these changes and also so terrified about what happened to me. I couldn't talk to anyone about it. Nobody was really talking about psychedelics back then. I
Yeah.
would talk to,
Or
I mean,
not in the way in which you were using them
I didn't know anyone talking about psychedelics at all back
at
then in
all. Yeah.
2018. Yeah, it wasn't as searchable as it is now.
Sure.
I had a huge community of wellness practitioners. I talked to, all sorts of people. Nobody had answers. So I went to search for answers on my own.
Yeah.
I started taking all sorts of courses. I started, doing what I do best is diving into education. And it took about 2 to 3 years until I realized that hypnosis and psychedelics work on the same function of the subconscious mind, which is the default mode network.
Will you
And
talk about that a little bit more? Like go into that? Like how are they similar?
yeah, so they're all shamanic arts, and I'm sure a lot of the work that you do as well is a shamanic art.
Mhm.
And so, like, there's this proverbial mountain, and there's different paths up the mountain, right?
Mhm.
And so, what so many of us are doing, including you, is working to help people move through that veil more eloquently,
Mhm.
right? Of like, okay, I'm in this 3D like reality, and I know there's other levels of reality,
Yeah.
and there's other things like intuition, gut feelings, even synchronicities and things like that are these little whispers from other realms.
Yeah.
And
I just say
so
the unseen.
the unseen, thank
Yeah.
you.
Then it can be
uh,
anything.
it could be anything. Yes. And so there's different access points, the unseen, right? So we can access it through meditation, we can access it through hypnosis, we can access it through psychedelics. And for what I'm noticing in our society's pretty dense in terms of we're very attached to our 3D reality.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, as a whole, and also the function of a lot of technology is to get us even more fixated on this realm because there's different mechanisms. For example, my phone is right here. When I stare into this screen, I narrow focus. Narrow focus is the opposite of open focus, wide
Yeah.
focus. Wide focus is intuition, it's clarity, it's relaxation. Narrow focus is stress, worry, fear. And so even if I'm watching something really conscious and uplifting on my phone, my brain is being signaled to be stressed out.
Sure, that makes sense. I hadn't thought about it that way, but that does make sense.
Yeah. And so as far as, access to the unseen, there's different ways to get into it. And for people that have spiritual practices or energetic practices like meditation and things like that, and I had a meditation practice for 2018, so about 7 years at that time. and I'd been practicing yoga for about 14 years at that time. And so I had ways to get into the energetics of
Sure.
it. So I think that my path unfolded differently having those tools. And a lot of the people coming to ketamine specifically are in very dense realities
Yeah,
right
I was
now.
going to say, do you tend, if you're doing a hypnotherapy and ketamine, is it typically people that are trying to open up themselves spiritually, or are they trying to heal some past traumas?
Yeah, they're probably the anti-spiritual
Right.
community, which is why I love this work so much, because it's people coming into this thinking, okay, I just need relief. So right now, we're looking at the biggest studies for ketamine, and what it helps with is PTSD, anxiety, and depression.
Yeah, heavy
These are
stuff.
very, very dense
Yeah,
states
totally.
of mental being. They're well paved pathways, subconsciously in the brain. And so people are just coming going, hey, I just want relief from these symptoms. The good thing about ketamine is that people get relief almost immediately. 90% of people see really fast results within the first 2 sessions of ketamine. They see a decrease in their symptoms. However, and this is where my work comes in, is okay, do you want relief from symptoms, or do you want to actually restructure your subconscious mind so that you are actually healing rather than just having to go back to the medicine over and over, which is something that happens in the psychedelic community.
So is it a bit like if you think about pathways in your brain and how wide open they can be when you have a pattern, good or bad, right? You can have a wide open good pattern too. But let's say you're having one that's deep, like PTSD or whatever it might be, and you're working with ketamine. Does it shut off that access to that road for a period of time? And then when you're doing the full body of healing work, you're opening new pathways? Would that be how it works in your brain, or am I misunderstanding?
You're spot on. The analogy that's used a lot in the psychedelic space is a fresh blanket of snow on a mountain.
Oh,
If
sure.
you have snow where you're at, right?
Yes, we do.
So,
Sadly. Hopefully not anymore for a while, but yes.
hopefully not anymore for a while. So if you think about a hill, right, just a mountainous, whatever, a hill, and there's a fresh blanket of snow on it. If you're the first person up to the hill with your sled, you're creating that groove, right? You go up to at the end of the day and you're not creating grooves anymore. Now you're just sliding through other people's pathways. That's
Sure.
how patterns in the brain are formed, right? And it's, stimulus response, stimulus response.
Mhm.
The subconscious mind has a processing speed that is about 10 million times faster than the
Is
conscious
that
mind.
really? Or is that
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, the processing speed of the conscious mind is 40 bits, 40. The processing speed of the subconscious mind is 10 million.
Yeah. And we so few of us like everybody says different things, but roughly where you're using like 10% of our brain and our consciousness. Is that what you say, or do you feel like it's different than
No,
that?
that's a very, very common misconception. And it comes from this idea. So 95% of the brain is subconscious, 5% is conscious. So if you think about subconscious underneath the surface, we're using 100% of our brain. In that 95%, we have our autonomic nervous system that is running this whole mechanics, right? Where people start to think, oh, we are only using 5 to 7% of the brain, is that 5 to 7% of the brain is conscious. And
Yeah.
so when you
Consciously
think of
using. Yeah.
consciously,
Yeah,
so
it's a good
what
little
we're aware
asterisk.
of. Exactly. And so if you think about driving a car, riding a
Mhm.
bike, learning to walk, if you remember that experience when you were learning, it was a lot of conscious effort, right? Two hands on the wheel. Where are my mirrors? Don't even bother with the heat or the sound,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Can't.
just one thing at a
10
time.
and 2, baby.
Exactly. Now, with practice, and it doesn't take a long time, then you build up the ability to, okay, now I can change the radio, now I can have a conversation, because what the brain is doing is saying, okay, let me automate that to the subconscious
Right.
mind so I can allot my 5% conscious effort towards anything that's incoming here in front of me. And so it's doing that not just with driving, walking, using a smartphone. It's doing that with how we view the world, the
Yeah.
lens through which the stories we tell.
Right. The stories we tell. Totally.
Yeah.
So what is a ketamine session, ketamine hypnotherapy combo session? Like if somebody was like, oh, that sounds like something maybe I do need. Maybe I would have wanted it for the immediate effects, but maybe I actually do need deeper healing. Like what exactly is that experience? How long does it last? Like give me like the rookie kindergarten version for peeps that are
Absolutely.
like, no idea.
Yeah. So right now, my hypnosis practice and my ketamine coaching are separate because I don't facilitate ketamine. I'm not a medical provider, so I don't facilitate or administer the medicine. My dream is to combine ketamine
Yeah.
sessions with hypnosis
Yeah.
because I've experimented with that in my personal life, and it is profound because I'll tell you why. Our issues are in our tissues,
Totally.
right? The
Yeah.
body keeps the score, all of
Totally
that.
does.
So ketamine is a dissociative. It takes you up and out of your body. And so if I were, for example, to, 2017, when I'm trying to quit alcohol, I'm trying to distance myself from that life. And if I sit down with a mantra or I sit down with an affirmation, I sit down with an intention of like, I am alcohol free. My
Mm-hmm.
body is going to respond and say, no, you're not. Right. And so with ketamine, you have distance from that. And so you have that fresh blanket of snow
Mm-hmm.
to make different choices. Now with ketamine, I mean, the way that ketamine goes, there's 4 modes of administration for ketamine. So at the bottom, like least journey,
Yeah, at least maybe invasive or intense. I don't know.
least intense and least invasive, yeah, you're spot on, is the nasal spray Spravato. So it's just a nasal spray, usually done either at home ketamine or there are some talk therapists that are using it as a psycholytic dose. So it's not psychedelic, it's a lower dose which lowers those barriers and gets people a little like
Is
to
it similar
the
to
left.
doing like microdosing mushrooms or something like that?
Exactly. It's
Okay.
a microdose. So that's the nasal spray. After that, we have the lozenges, which are sublingual. They dissolve under the tongue. This is what we see with a lot of at-home ketamine. They send people lozenges, and they just have an experience with that. That is challenging because it's not very bioavailable. So if you're ingesting it, right, then you're working with the metabolic system of the body, which is
Yeah,
different for everyone.
sure.
Then the third option is intramuscular, where they just do like a quick injection. Hits faster, but it's a really quick ride. It's like a up and a down type
What
of
does that
thing.
mean? Quick ride? Like minutes,
You're up and then
hours?
you're down. No, like 20ish minutes.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, 20ish minutes, and then some depending on the clinic, depending on their protocol, they might re-up you in the middle, so you'll go for a full 40 minutes. Right now, most ketamine sessions are anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes. That's sort of like the blanket um, sort of thing in the
Sure.
country. I recently was invited to a clinic in Los Angeles, actually in Sherman Oaks, right north of LA, where
Yeah.
I had a 2-hour infusion, and I'm going to do a whole podcast episode about
Oh,
that
nice. I'll tune
because
in. Well, maybe we should drop that in once you do
yeah,
it. We'll update the show notes.
it just happened 2 weeks ago, and I want to like take some time to integrate
Yeah,
before I put it
process
out
that.
there.
Yeah.
But wow, 2 hours, like it was a lot. And there are people that do 4-hour sessions, but that's for chronic pain. So there's a whole other protocol for chronic pain that's not for mental health and
And are
well-being.
you doing anything else other than letting the medicine do its job? Are you also thinking about questions I mean, I've never done it, so I'm curious, like, how does that work, like in the middle of your experience?
Yeah, so let me explain the fourth one real quick. So we had
Yeah.
the nasal spray, the lozenges, the IM intramuscular, and then the IV is intravenous. And so that is able to sustain. A lot of clinics will use pumps so that the dosage is sustained throughout the entire infusion, whether that's 40, 45, 60 minutes, or like I had two
Or in your
hours.
case, super
Yeah.
VIP user 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And so with that, it's like you take off, you stay in that place, and then you come back down. And so the question that you're asking, as far as like what happens after the
Yeah.
ketamine's injected
Yeah,
or
that's right. Then what?
ingested,
Yeah.
yeah, then you go for a ride. And this is the thing that is really cool because as any most experienced psychedelic practitioner, user, tripper, whatever, will tell you, every trip is different. So
Sure.
this is like where we can relate it to meditation, right? It's like you sit down, you close your eyes, you don't know what's going to happen. It's just a matter of being available for whatever comes up. And so that's what a lot of my work is. I joke about this all the time because my specialization is working with highly anxious overthinkers, right? So
Well,
I'm
the world's
taking,
full of those, so you got a real good pool to
I
work with.
used to be one, so I have a lot of love for my
Sure.
people.
Yeah.
So, I'm taking a population that has a high level need for control and telling them, we don't know what's going to happen. Let's find out.
Yeah.
Right. But we know you'll feel better. And so there's an episode of the podcast that is 3 reasons you should do ketamine. It's a little bait and switch because I talk about 3 reasons that ketamine has. So it's like the soft skills of ketamine. And one
Mm-hmm.
of them is navigating the mystery, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get in there and you are now people are more equipped on the other side of like, oh, maybe I can handle the unknown better than I thought because I didn't know what was going to happen there. And
Exactly. Yeah.
and one of my teachers, we used to geek out on this. I still geek out on this because I hear trip stories. This is my work. I hear trip stories. People tell me where they go, right? The answer to your question. So there's no one place, there's no one experience, there's no one place. But what happens is the way that I describe it is the way the subconscious mind works is imagine a long hallway with lots of doors, right? And each door is a room. And you have a room of joy, of pain, of love, of trauma, whatever, right? So what psychedelics do is that they lower the barriers in between those rooms. So now you have the neural network, that's what they're called, neural network of pain talking to the neural network of joy, and
Mm.
they're having a conversation. And this is why a lot of the tropes of we're all one, we're all connected come out of the psychedelic spaces because we have this lived experience of the barriers in the brain dropping and we're
Sure.
able to have that experience. So the tropes are it's vast, it's expansive, and it's deeply comforting. So whether people go to outer space, the ocean, those are like the big ones that we
Sure.
hear about. But if you imagine, you get the medicine, the medicine starts to kick in, and then you just kind of like begin to fade away. And
Yeah.
then depending on your need for control, your ability to let go, and just like your trust, it could be a really relaxing, like, oh my gosh, I'm
Yes.
floating away. Or it could be, what the hell is going on? And am I safe? And everything in between.
Sure.
So,
It's not
uh,
that different than when I'm helping people access the ability to talk to their guides. Like it's very similar. Like I want to do it right, and what do I do, and how
yep,
am I supposed to do it, and I don't want to mess up, and I feel pretty sure I messed up, so I don't know. Like I don't even know anymore. And you're like, yeah, we're gonna tame that down a little so that you can open up a little more. And it's
right.
so true in this world too. Like it's like you can how you approach it. I would imagine really anchors into your experience.
Absolutely. And that's why I've been doing this work since 2021. Since 2021, I've been working with clients going into ketamine experiences. Since 2018, I've been working as a hypnotherapist. And so I'm really good at kind of spotting like the patterns.
Sure.
Hypnosis is all
Oh, I'm
about
sure.
patterns. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what's the best bang for your buck, right? Like, where can you get the most sort of out of this journey? And I'm telling you, it's the preparation.
Sure. I love that. And the non 3D prep. I mean, you obviously 3D prep, but it's
Yes.
probably, prepping for where you might be able to go in your experience too.
Where you can go, as you were saying earlier, how to direct the experience, that's a little bit more advanced of like, can you ask questions? Can you guide the experience? I don't offer that up until usually session 2 or 3. I mean, we set an intention and that's
Sure.
sort of the North
Yeah,
Star.
that's
That's
a
like
nice
the
way to
guiding
do it
light.
too. It's so
Yeah.
funny because we do the same thing. When I'm going to
I
help
know.
people connect with their guides, you're like, we're setting an intention.
Yep.
You're queuing up and saying, I'm open to this. I'm open to the magic. I'm open to receiving. You're telling the universe, knock, knock, knock. I'm ready for this door to open, kind of so similar.
I'm telling you, we're both in the shamanic
I
arts. We're doing
know.
the
I
same thing.
know. I love that. So, how does ketamine differ from somebody that's going to use mushrooms in this way, or maybe somebody that wants to do an ayahuasca retreat? Like, especially on the more spiritual side versus like trauma healing. Like, where do you see the place of all of them, or how are they similar or different?
Yeah, such a good question. And I get this question a lot
I
through
bet.
listenership on the podcast is like, well, maybe I should go do psilocybin instead, or maybe I should go do this other thing. Um, I mean, there are different paths up the mountain. They all
Yeah.
have different offerings. My suggestion is whatever medicine is calling to you, go to that one.
Yeah, that's probably
And
good. Let the whisper guide you.
let the whisper guide you. And here's the thing, ketamine is the only legal psychedelic currently in the
Is it
country.
legal everywhere?
Federally, yes. So we
Federally
have
legal.
we have little hot spots of psilocybin being legal, but there's even bigger barriers to entry for psilocybin, which is magic mushrooms for people that don't know, than there is for ketamine. So ketamine is legal, it's accessible. There's clinics all over the country,
Mm,
and honestly, you start work. Here's how I explain it: you work with plants, you get plant intelligence.
mm.
And plant intelligence is nature. It's not always the gentlest. It's not always the kindest. When I think back to that difficult night that I had in 2018, I can't foresee that something like that would have happened with a synthetic. So ketamine is synthetic. It's synthesized in a lab. It's one of the safest medicines literally in the world. One of my favorite fun facts about ketamine is that it is one of the substances that's on the UN access to, like, what is it called? Like, basic rights is for all countries to have access to ketamine because it's safe for pediatrics, it's safe for adults, it's safe for trauma.
Yeah.
If there's a mine that, collapses or explodes, they give people ketamine to get them out of that traumatic experience. And you're able to, with synthetics, you're able to control the
Yes,
dosage.
right. Yeah.
So you're not just like,
It's
I was
regulated. Yeah.
blasted to,
You're
I
like, I
don't know
drank
where.
7 cups of tea. I don't know. Was that good or bad?
Exactly. So there's advantages to all of it. I think for what I see people coming to, the population specifically that I work with, it's not necessarily the adventurous population that's going to go sit in the jungle and drink some weird thing out of a little cup from someone that doesn't speak their language.
Right. Yeah. And I think there, like, do you think because of the synthetic component or the man-made component, like some purists give it a bad rap, or where would are you kind of like get out of your ego? Like it's a great tool.
I'm a get out of your ego type of gal personally, because I think there's space for all the medicines.
Yeah.
And we're talking about people's healing, we're talking about people's lives, we're
Yes.
talking about, I mean, the state of mental health in this country is one of the
Totally.
topics that we don't discuss, and it's dire. It's
Yeah.
actually a crisis that we're just kind of sweeping under the rug. And so we're saying, okay, all of the psychedelic medicines, literally every single one, has the ability to help people with these dense mental states. And should we send people overseas to seek the medicine so that they're doing it legally, or be here? I just think,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there is a bigger conversation that is like, is it drugs or is it medicine, right?
Right.
And it's like, and the answer is yes. And it's also like, as we talk about ending the prohibition on medicines, right, on substances, let's say,
Sure.
right, that have been labeled as drugs, and we have people in jail for things that other communities are using, in very privileged
Yeah.
settings. Like,
And
that's not
that
that.
fits lots of descriptions, honestly.
Exactly. And so it's just like how can we get people healed? How can we get people the support that they need? And if it comes from a mushroom or if it comes from a lab, I personally am just like, who cares?
Do what works for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think the is it a medicine or is it a drug? Do you think part of that is the intention and the quantity? Like, what is my intention with using this versus and the amount in which I use it? I'm just thinking about, like, for instance, people that use marijuana for sleep aid, for pain, for a million things, not just like really intense things like, cancer, end of life care or whatever.
Right.
But like people that are like, oh, yeah, it's a great way for me to sleep. Right. Like, I find that there's a line, me personally, this is just my perspective. There's a line between what is medicine and what is for the drug and the fun, joy, experimentation, whatever you might want to call it. Like what is your intention and at what dose in which you're consuming it within a period of time. And I'm curious about your perspective on that.
Yeah, there's this great book, and actually the topic that we were just talking about with like prohibition, legality, different communities, access, drugs, medicine. There's a brilliant book called Drug Use for Grown-Ups. And
Oh.
yeah, and it's Dr. Carl Hart Harris. He used to be at Columbia. I think he's in San Francisco somewhere right now, maybe UC Berkeley. And he addresses these topics. And I thought when I read this book in, I think it was like 2020, I was blown away. So we had he was a tenured professor at Columbia University, Ivy League, all of that prestige,
Mm-hmm.
openly talking about his heroin use, his recreational heroin use, right? Which is, wow, that's hella controversial,
Totally.
right? And he was addressing that, like, why are certain substances, you walk into, I don't know, he was talking about walking into the Met Gala because that was his life.
Sure.
And
Same. Totally.
yeah, so relatable. And getting offered a glass of wine. He's like,
Yes.
that's not my drug, you know?
Right.
That's not my drug. And that's how I
But it's a
feel about.
very acceptable one in the United States. Lord. My husband and I have this conversation a lot, and he actually listens to these episodes. He'll be like, I really liked this one with Anna, Kara.
I mean, what do we have? What are some societally accepted addictions that I used to personally, all of my recovery? Overworking,
Yes, totally.
alcohol, screens,
Yep.
right? All of these things that we're addicted to, right? So,
Consumerism,
yeah. Oh my God.
buying bigger house, bigger things, all the things. Yeah. I
Exactly.
used
Yeah.
to call myself a workaholic because I worked for a positive psychology firm, and I was like, no, I'm not a workaholic. It's such a good thing. I'm like such a hard worker. You're like, Lord.
There's a
So I called
lot of
myself a
accolades.
workaholic. How dumb
Yeah,
is
we
that?
get a lot of accolades. We get a lot of,
Yes, we do. You get a lot of praise for
and there's like,
sacrificing your well being.
and you become relatable, right? It's like, oh,
It's a badge of
the
honor. Yeah.
yeah, oh, the I hate my job culture, but like, what can I do? Like, all of that toxicity is a form of addiction. It's a form of substances. It's
Yeah.
something that is, so if we're talking about like, okay, using these substances recreationally or using them intentionally, first of all, they could be both,
Yeah, they can.
right?
Totally.
So and the number one rule of psychedelic use is set and setting. Okay, so before you take any psychedelic, including cannabis, by the way, cannabis is a psychedelic. And so before any of that, you want to say, okay, setting is your literal geography. Like, where am I? Am I somewhere I feel safe? Do I
Yeah.
have access to water, bathroom, etc.? Like, do I feel good about where I actually am? Which is why on the podcast and in my professional life, I always advocate for using ketamine with a clinic. Like, there's
Right.
at home ketamine if that's all you have access to, fine. But to really have the setting taken care of for you, and then setting, and then set is your mindset, right? What
Mm, mm.
psychedelics are at their core a non-specific amplifier. They're going to amplify whatever's already going on. So you
Sure.
want to take the proper steps. Again, it's in the preparation, right? Like the days before, the hours before, and the hours after as well. But really setting yourself up. When I think back to some of the journeys I've had, I'm like, oh, that's a movie I watched 2 weeks
Yeah.
before that.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a nice movie. I was happy to see it come back in my psychedelic journey, but we are so impressionable. We're little
Yeah,
sponges
we are.
taking in everything that's around us. And so
Consciously and unconsciously.
mostly unconsciously,
Mostly unconsciously. Yeah.
which is wild. So yeah, so really like preparing.
Sure. So what's the downside, or when you're coming, you're coming out of the high of that, of the opening up of that, the expansiveness of that? Are you likely to feel tired? Are you likely to feel a little bit of a downer as you're building yourself back up? Like, what's likely to happen on the back end? I think that's a fear people have.
Yeah, all of it's possible. We don't know how you'll land. I always advocate for the day of ketamine journeys to just leave the rest of the day. Just like give yourself permission to nap for the rest of the day. And if you get a spark of motivation or inspiration, amen, go follow that. But don't put anything on yourself, right?
Sure.
Don't
Don't put too much pressure.
don't commit
Yeah.
yourself to anything other than like sleep, water, nutrition, and maybe some journaling or whatever.
Yeah.
Just jotting down some notes. And then how you land will vary. I've
Yeah.
had journeys. And that's why I really like ketamine. Honestly, I've never had a session with ketamine, even that 2-hour journey. I literally went to another dimension and built a whole life there
Mm,
and thought that's where I lived. And
maybe
then
you
I
do.
came back to this one and I was like, oh, not that one. Okay. I like that one too, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it exists in the quantum field at least.
I visit it sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Um, but it wasn't, but it's not likely to be a drop. I've had experiences with other medicines that are more powerful where I then come back and I'm like, oh, this reality, I don't know. And that's the thing. It's like the advice that I offer is that in the realm of 3D reality, we live in the realm of contrast. And
Yeah,
so, whatever the contrast is that you receive for your medicine journey, that is ripe material for the
totally.
integration phase, right?
Hmm.
You went to outer space and you were like, in my journey, I felt really free. I felt really expansive. I felt really just like unstoppable. Great. I want to bring that into my life here. What are practices? What are, people? What are things that I can do that can support that?
Yes. I love that integration word. So
Yeah,
powerful. You're like, how do I integrate the lessons, the expansiveness, the things that showed up to teach me? How do
exactly. And then,
I learn that or integrate that?
exactly. And then you're taking ketamine from something that you tried and something that exists in the session to ketamine actually changed my life because it makes those changes more possible. It lowers the barrier to entry for people to do some really basic self-care, right?
Mm,
Like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I before ketamine I knew that going for a walk, meditating, eating nutritious food, what is it was a should, but it was like a burdensome should.
that's right.
And
It was like
now,
like a handcuff should.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like a shameful should,
Yeah.
right?
Shame.
Like,
Well, yeah, there you go. Exactly.
yeah, so much shame in that. Like, I know I always say,
Just shit all
should
over
is shame.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah, should all over yourself. Should is shame. I tell
Yes.
clients every day, should is a dirty word.
And shame
Um,
is the lowest vibrational emotion you can experience when you're measuring it on a frequency.
I know.
Yeah. So
It's literally the
it's
worst.
not the
Get
place
angry
to
about
be.
it before you get shameful about it.
Yeah, exactly. And usually if you don't allow yourself to be angry, you're just like go straight to the shame and you're like, "Oh yeah, I just went straight there and I didn't allow myself to like get it out, to release it out of my body or my mind or my spirit or my soul, you know?"
Absolutely. Yeah. Shame.
Yeah.
We have a lot of mechanisms in our society built around shame. Even the question that you asked about like using psychedelics recreationally, which is why I think it's so revolutionary that, Dr. Carl Hart was Dr. Carl Hart Harris, there we go, the full name, was talking about, being open using heroin. It's just like
Yeah.
there's no shame
I
for
just
him
think
there.
we fear what we don't understand, which is why I deeply wanted you to come on the podcast because I have a lot of variety of types of listeners and I have a lot of people that are probably like spiritually curious but living a really traditional life and they're kind of listening in going, I don't know, it's like my little fun thing I do is like what is Kara going to talk about? And I really truly believe that this conversation will open up perspective and open up dialogue for people too. Really.
Absolutely. There's so many questions. If people are interested in like the 3D questions of like, how do I prepare for ketamine? What should I eat? What should I do in the hours after? All of that. We have so many episodes about that kind of stuff. If
Yeah,
people
I'll
are
drop the
interested.
link to your Ketamine Connections podcast and your website and all of that in the show notes so people can find you and connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I receive emails, I receive fan mail, and I love answering questions. I get questions and then I turn them into an episode so that
Yeah,
we have
totally.
that lives on the podcast. Because if one person has a question, there's at least a million more.
Yeah. So, how often would somebody use ketamine as a treatment, especially if they're moving, trying to move out of trauma? Like, what would that care plan look like?
So right now, the gold standard is 6 sessions done in either different clinics have different ketamine schedules. So the most I've seen is 3 times a week. So 6 sessions over 2 weeks. That's like the fast
Fastest?
track.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's clinics that do once a week. That's probably about the best, anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week, because you want it to stay in the system. So the way that ketamine stays
Metabolically. I'm here
Thank
for
you.
you, sister.
I appreciate you. It's in the system, right? So there's a cumulative effect
Yes.
that builds, and then it stays in the system, and so then it continues helping people make those different choices that are reforming the synaptic connections, right? The
Yeah.
neural pathways in the
Those,
brain.
right.
Yeah, so 6 sessions is like the gold standard. Some for some denser states they're showing 10 to be the protocol. There's clinics that offer 3, there's clinics that offer one-offs. And then usually what I'll see is people go through that 6 pack and then they're integrating for a while. And some people will, okay, it's been 3 months, I'm going to go for a booster. It's been 6 months, a year, 2 years, I'll go for a booster. But I've never seen anyone then go back to the protocol.
Oh, it's like a one and done, really.
Yeah,
Reset. It's a total
it's a
reset.
reset. It's an
Yeah.
absolute reset. Yeah.
So what if you're open to it from a more expansive place? Like I'm assuming the lane that you're in, if you've worked through quite a bit of stuff and now you're like, what else is there? Like what else how do I access parts of my subconscious, my intuition, messages from guides, whatever it might be. Like I want to open up wider. What
Yeah.
does that look like in terms of how often you might use a psychedelic?
So traditionally, when we look at indigenous societies and how psychedelics were used, so it's really fun to imagine that psychedelics are used throughout the animal kingdom. We actually know that dolphins will suck on pufferfish to get high.
Love it. I knew I loved dolphins.
Right? I want to see that on a YouTube video.
Maybe you need to make it.
Yeah, we know that dogs and cats and other like woodland creatures will find mushrooms and eat that. And so when they've studied sort of the history of psychedelics, what are they used for? They're used to get people out of patterns. So the way that I describe a lot of like the spiritual work, regardless of the modality, is you're walking up a mountain, right? You walk up a mountain, you get to a viewpoint, you hang out there for a while.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, we're not meant to be
Because you're
growing all the time.
integrating. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's very similar.
Exactly. So if you're on that plateau and you're like, okay, things have been kind of steady. I want to make a change. I want to move forward and I just like kind of can't, like for whatever reason. And and for your community who has the tools that you offer, right? It's like the normal ways that I usually get through this aren't working.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we turn to psychedelics. And that's something that's like a lot of people think about me a lot of the time is that I'm always on psychedelics, which is not true. So in my own personal practice, it's like if something's looping, if something is just like, oh, this thing again, this thing again, this thing
Mm-hmm.
again, like, okay, I need an out from this. That's when I will go in pursuit of psychedelic medicine. The 2-hour journey that was gifted to me, it was not, I wasn't feeling stuck. And I was like, oh, I say no to a lot of psychedelics probably every week. I'm invited into ceremonies and different things.
I bet, I suppose. You're the
Yeah.
cool kid and you're my friend. Yay.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's a part of it. People are just
Sure.
like, oh, there's a ceremony. There's a ceremony.
Yeah.
And I'm just like 99% of the time, no. But this one, the clinic is doing really different work. I really like their protocol and I was curious to try it. And so for this one, it was probably one of my first times, definitely my first time with ketamine going into a journey without feeling stuck, feeling
with a
actually
totally
moving
different
forward.
mindset.
Yeah. And so my intention for that journey was just like, I got nothing to clear. I got nothing to unblock. Show me how good it can get, which is why I built a whole life over there.
Yeah.
That was free and expansive and amazing. And then I came back to this one and I was just like, well, that's possible.
Yeah. Let me embody that.
Here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What are the steps to embody that?
Yeah. And it was just so cool because the clinic, Dr. Austin Harris, and the clinic name is Neuro Relief Ketamine in Sherman Oaks, California. And he was talking about this protocol and how he's like, with 2 hours, you push through to the other side. And I didn't understand that until I came out of it. And I was like, I didn't know there was another side until I got to the other side of it. So it was really cool.
Yeah, that's crazy in a good way. Like,
yeah,
super interesting. Okay, what advice would you give somebody that's spiritually curious, that's like open to the idea of psychedelics? Like maybe I'm not quite ready. Like what would you say? I mean, I would say trust your intuition if it's calling you or not calling you. But beyond that, like what what is available for somebody that's really wanting to open up in this way?
Yeah, I think we have what, 8 billion people on the planet right now, something like that. I would like to think that majority of people will not do psychedelics, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so as we have people that are more curious about the psychedelics, it's like that curiosity. I don't know how you teach it. It's coming from somewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
If you're
So
like I'm always like, if you're getting a nudge, that nudge is a whisper from somewhere. So
exactly.
it's there to guide you. And I always think that's how intuition works. It works in little whispers, not like, what are you doing? You're so dumb if you've never tried this. Like, it's not going to come that way. It's going to come in a, that's interesting. I never thought about that. I'm kind of thinking about that. Like, it'll come in those curiosity, those little whispers.
I have the tingles of truth on my
Oh, I
body.
love that. Don't you love that when you're like, clear feeling? Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on top of what you just brilliantly offered of like following the nudges, following the intuition, we have about 70,000 thoughts per day, and 95% of them are on repeat. And so,
That's
yeah.
insane.
So if the thought of psychedelics comes in and it won't leave, it's there for a reason. If you're like, oh, I read an article, I saw a tweet, my cousin's brother, whatever, it was just also your cousin. But anyways, the it's like if you're hearing about it and it's out of sight, out of mind, then leave it there.
Yeah.
But if you're feeling nudged and then all of a sudden it's like, I mean, I'm sure you teach about like asking your spirit guides for signs, right? So just
Mm-hmm.
like play that game of just like, all right, spirit guides, if I'm meant to do ketamine, then show me a pink heart.
It's so funny. I was like Pink Pony, and then I was like, well, with that song Pink Pony Club, you'll probably see it like 100 times. You're like, I'm really supposed to do this.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
my friend Julie teaches that when you ask for signs, like a level 1 sign is like, I see repeating numbers or feathers or coins, and like a level 2 sign is like, oh my gosh, a deer came up to my door and looked at me, like an animal. They have to manipulate an animal, or cardinals come, that kind of thing. She's like, a level 3 thought sign is like something unique and specific and detailed. Like, I want to see a pink convertible or a purple car or like a light up Christmas tree in April, like stuff like that, where you're asking for like something so unique and if it comes into your awareness, then that's your sign. And I like just anchoring in this sign conversation. I really like when you ask for one or the other. Like, if it's neutral and I'm supposed to wait, show me this. If it's a yes, show me this. And if it's a no, show me that. Because sometimes they only ask for the yes, and then they're like looking for the yes and looking for the yes, and they're missing that it's a pause. They're, like their guides are like, I'm not going to give it to you because it's not the right time. It's not that it's a no. It's just a not right now. It's a yellow light. So I always
right.
ask people, like, ask for a red, yellow, and green light sign.
Which is also where a lot of people begin to panic, right? And then
Totally.
yeah,
You're like, no, I don't have guides, Kara.
exactly.
Okay, my last question in this space is, where do you see psychedelics going? Where do you see the future of them over the next 10 to 20 years? Because they've changed a lot in the last 10 to 20 years. Like, where do you see it going?
It is such the wild, wild west of the psychedelic space right now, which is kind of cool because there's just so much in the space, and there's everything from, our veterans getting ketamine through the VA, which I think is beautiful. We have a lot of great nonprofits that are helping people get access to medicine. Everything from that to, the very wealthy going into, spending $100,000
Luxury retreats.
Yeah. Like really,
luxury
really
ceremony. Yeah.
yeah. And it's, in a lot of ways, it's like, that's your permission slip, right? And some people need a bigger permission slip than other people, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
The future of psychedelic medicine, gosh, it's so hard to say. I think the ball is rolling. So we saw, right, we had the first psychedelic sort of renaissance in the 60s, and that kind of got out of control, and the government shut it down in 1970, making all of these substances class 1 scheduled substances. And so that happened once. Will it happen again? Who knows? The thing about psychedelics is it's such a wild card, right? People are coming to it thinking, okay, I just want relief from my anxiety and overthinking and to lower my PTSD. And then
Right.
all of a sudden they're talking to
Yeah.
spirit guides and
Other
getting
things are opening
downloads.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, other things are opening up. And so I think I I don't know, this is just my sort of truth.
Yeah. I'm just asking your crystal ball. Yeah.
My crystal ball is that it's snowballing, and
Mm,
that the people who
I
have
feel
seen what
that.
they've seen cannot unsee what they've seen. And I think the cool thing too that comes into it is you have these, mega wealthy, privileged people who are spending $100,000 on a one ceremony. Well, guess
Hmm.
what? They're having a very similar experience as the people in maybe group settings or things like that are less luxury, we'll say. And what we're seeing too is everyone going into psychedelics, very common to have that experience of oneness, of unity consciousness. And
Yeah.
so people are going into it thinking, okay, I want, there's a lot of people doing psychedelics for biohacking, for leadership,
Yes.
for
Totally.
there's another great book, Stealing Fire, that talks about using psychedelics in the corporate world for Fortune 500s. And so they're now coming out of it feeling more empathetic, more compassionate, more connected
Hmm.
to other people around them, and then also inspired to act on that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think that we're seeing a tipping point, and it's interesting to notice, right, in 2020, if you follow astrology, we entered the age of Aquarius, the age of lowering hierarchies. And what are we seeing right now? We're seeing the internet, right? I remember, I think it was like even a decade ago at this point, I was at a conference in New York, and I saw the CEO founder of Duolingo speak. And he was so proud that Duolingo software was being used in classroom settings in developing countries where you had a whole classroom of students using one computer. And then Bill Gates,
Right.
how much more level do you get,
Right.
right? We're giving people in all over the world access to coding, technology use, things like that, and that's lifting their economic status. So we're
Yeah.
seeing the hierarchies, we're seeing them begin to level off, and we're simultaneously seeing those that are unprepared for the change, attached to the way things are, really fighting for it. So we got to
Hmm.
get those people some breath work. We got to get them like a really cushy eye mask, and we just got to like someone to whisper into their
That's right.
ear, like, it's okay.
You
The
need
world
a,
is changing,
that's
and
right.
that's okay.
You need a little whispered sleep, like sleep programming that's like, you're going to be okay.
It's going to be fine.
It's all right.
Just
You know,
okay.
it's interesting because people, like when I talk to people about intuition and accessing that intuition, that inner knowing, what people usually listen to is the fear that is the loudest voice they have. And so it is hard for them to hear anything other than fear because it's the loudest. And when you can use whatever tool you want, whether it's breath work, meditation, hug a tree, walk in nature, put your feet in grass. I mean, there's a million ways that you can lower that fear dial so that other things can come through for you. And I think that's where the magic happens when you do that. And I truly think this spiritual awakening that people are going on, and this ability to, connect to the unseen, not just know it's there, but actually have meaningful two-way relationship with it. I think it's also snowballing. I actually think it's all part of a larger energetic plan of how we elevate consciousness and how we really expand where we're at in a human race. So, I mean, I really find quite a few common threads between you and me and the work we do.
So many threads. I knew that going into this conversation, which is why I was so excited. Have you heard of the hundredth ape theory?
100th ape, no.
Okay. This is what gives me a lot of hope when we're talking about the future of psychedelics. So I don't know about you, and in my past, not so much anymore, but when I started waking up and tapping into the unseen, talking to my guides, like receiving intuitive downloads, signs, all of that. Um, I became like a little evangelist, right? Like everybody needs to know this, and
Yeah, you get that little spiritual superiority, I like to call, a little spiritual ego. You're like, come on, you have to do this.
exactly, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and then I would look at the world and go, It's not going to happen. There's too many of us. There's too many of us. There's not, how do we wake up the whole world, right? We need a giant megaphone. So the 100th ape theory is, I don't remember where this, people can look it up. I'm going to butcher where it happened, but basically we had scientists observing monkeys, apes on an island somewhere. And on one part of the island, the apes figured out that a lot of them were dying from foodborne illnesses, and they took their, I believe it was sweet potatoes, and they decided to wash them in the river before consuming them, and that really helped lower the spread of that disease.
Mm-hmm.
So when the 100th monkey on that island, on that side of the island, started, right? Because it took a while to take off, right? Like, I'm sure the first ape that did it, the other apes were just like, why are you doing that? What are you doing? You know? Anyways, the 100th ape on one side of the island washes that sweet potato. All of a sudden, the apes on the other side of the island start doing the same thing. And what's that proving is that, Carl Jung talked about this as the collective consciousness.
Yes.
So we don't need 100% of the people to wake up, to build a new earth, to step into a higher level of consciousness, to raise the frequency, vibration, whatever you want to say about it.
Right.
All we need is 51%. And then we get the tipping point, and then everyone else can just kind of go for that ride.
Yeah, that's interesting perspective. Like, because my guides will tell me all of the time, like, not everyone is meant to wake up in this lifetime because of the karmic lessons that they are contracted to learn. And when I let that sink into my soul, I went, oh, it is not my place to convince you to do anything. My job is really to shine my light, live as I'm meant to live. And if you are vibrationally connected to my frequency, then maybe that's a sign. And then you're meant to come in this world and open up in this way. And if you're not, if you're repelled by it, then it really wasn't meant for you. And I think that's probably true with psychedelics too, like circling this fully back. Like if it's a curiosity for you, it's probably a curiosity for a reason.
Amen. The other thing I'll say about, karmic, like is, Dolores Cannon, who talked a lot. She was a hypnotherapist, but she did a lot of like past life. Like she did some quantum stuff. Like listening to her is like, wow.
Yeah.
And her theory was that not everyone on earth has a soul in them. I don't know how people feel about that, but like I think about that sometimes where I'm like, and I obsess about this Buddhist theory that I am the last person enlightened on earth, and everyone is here for my enlightenment. We all are. It's not just like I'm the protagonist of my story.
Right. Yeah, I'm following.
And so it's like if you sit back and you just like accept, like, wow, everything's happening for me. Even the shit storm, the difficult, the like things that like drop me to my knees and just bawling.
Yeah.
Like, what is this here to teach me? What is this here to show me? And we need that contrast. So is everyone on earth have a soul, or are certain people just kind of avatars to fill in the spaces where we
It's a really interesting perspective. I'm not going to go too deep on this because of the pod, but maybe offline we can go super deep. But I was talking to a friend about this, and we were talking about oneness and the collective consciousness, and everyone is part of the oneness and the collective consciousness that is connected to source is what we went deep into talking about. And whether or not everyone is connected to source or not, that is where the deeper question lies. Does everyone have a soul? Is everyone connected to source? Is everyone in the one energy? And that's probably a whole separate podcast you and I could go deep, deep, deep into. But I do think that it's a pretty profound thought to at least anchor in the fact that if you're listening to this, you're in the collective oneness, like you're open to this. Your soul is craving this learning and this exploration in this way. At least that's what I would say.
Amen. Yeah. And that oneness, right? It's just, energy cannot be created or destroyed.
That's
so
right.
It's like, I love this now. I love the age that we're in right now. Cause before I was any sort of spiritual, I was very, very, quantifiable scientific.
Yeah, pragmatic.
So yeah.
I mean, it's so funny. I went through like being born, like raised super religiously to like this is all a hoax, man. This is just how you manipulate peeps too.
Mhm.
Like, I studied abroad twice. I lived in India, totally changed my life, like so many things. And then, went to a medium and I didn't even believe in mediums. And now I am one. So, your beliefs can change, as can who you are.
Your beliefs
How
can
you vibrate, what you believe, what you think and see, you allow yourself to change.
Yeah, question everything.
Yeah. See what's for you. Okay, I'm going to
Absolutely.
do rapid fire. This is my favorite thing to do at the end of an episode. Just
So,
tell me your favorite thing. Okay. First thing
okay.
that comes to mind, there's no right or wrong. Okay.
Okay. But just
Okay.
so you know, it might take me a moment because sometimes when I get rapid fire, like my brain goes
You're like
totally
overload.
blank.
I don't know what folder to go to.
Yeah, I'm just like, I've never watched a movie in my life. You want to know my favorite one?
Yeah, totally. Sure do. Okay. What is your favorite food or a food that you love? Like a food memory or a food that you're like, oh my gosh, this is it. I love this.
I go through waves. I tend to like eat the same thing for a while and then I don't want to eat it ever again for months and
You
months
and my
right
daughter could
now.
be best friends.
Yeah, my obsession right now is salads.
Love it.
It's getting hot in Texas and all I want to eat are salads.
Nice. I'm obsessed with, in fact, I might even make it this week. I like to make an arugula salad with beets and chicken and pistachios and a lemon vinaigrette. And I
That's
just, and
it.
I'm just like into it. I could eat it like every day.
That's literally it. I love a lot of ingredients right now. I mean, what was in the salad? I eat salads for breakfast. That might be something
Oh,
that
Lord.
people should know about me.
Fun fact of Anna.
Yeah, I eat dinner and lunch for breakfast and then maybe sometimes I'll eat breakfast for dinner.
Oh, I
I
never do breakfast for dinner, but I do sometimes do lunch or dinner for breakfast.
I
If I'm going to choose a meal, it's not going to be breakfast. It's very
Yeah, I'm
controversial.
okay with breakfast. Like it's a fun dessert, but like honestly, I want to set myself up for the day
Mm,
nutritiously. So
yeah.
I want like all the vegetables in there, and I put herbs. That's the thing. Salad
Mm.
with herbs. So I
Oh,
like
nice.
yeah, cilantro. What's the other one? Parsley, basil. Just like
Yeah.
get the flavors in there.
Love it. I love that's awesome. What is your favorite place to travel or a place you would go to next? So if people dropped like 20 G's in your pocket, where would you go? Had to
20
spend it on
Gs would get me
travel.
really far. So I started off, I had a 10-year career in study abroad. We started
Yeah.
the episode with that. So
Yeah.
I'm very well traveled. And I used to be very like bootstrapped, travel.
Yes.
So 20 grand, I'm like, I could
You're
take a
like, oh,
trip
I could
around
go
the
like around the
world.
whole world.
Yeah. Where would
Maybe
I
not semester at sea, but I could do something fun.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to Costa Rica next, but
Oh,
that's a
nice.
little boring because I go there every year and I've been
Do
going there
you? Do
since
you go to Costa Rica every year?
yeah, since I was about 18, my first trip there, and I used to lead study abroad there as well. But if where would I travel to next? I would love to take like a really proper backpacking trekking trip.
Oh,
Like I
nice.
love
What
hiking in
continent or
mountains.
space would you go to?
Yes.
To be determined. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Maybe you're supposed to go to Nepal because I keep seeing Everest things everywhere. So maybe that's for you.
Maybe that's for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's your favorite holiday?
My birthday.
Oh, I love it. Oh my God. I've never had anybody say that. I freaking love it. Love it. I'm going to put that down and be like, that is my holiday. The birth
So
of greatness happened on that day.
yeah, I'm an immigrant in this country and I come from the former Soviet Union and there was no real religion and not really holidays there. So my family our big holiday growing up was New Year's. That's probably my second favorite holiday.
Nice. I did not know that about you. How long have you been here?
I got here when I was 5. A
Oh,
while.
long time.
Yeah.
Long, long time. Okay. Do you have any spirit animals that present themselves?
All the time. Jeez. What was the recent one that came out? Oh my gosh, I'm like, I could see its little face.
Are turtles a spirit animal for you?
No,
Or you just have that cute turtle?
that was a gift.
So cute. I love
My
it.
friend's 10-year-old daughter drew that for me
So cute.
and I love it.
Love it.
Spirit animal snake. Right now it's a snake. Let's just do that.
Yeah. I love that. It's interesting because snakes symbolize, the shedding and the
Exactly.
rebirthing of new, which sounds pretty aligned with what you went through on your experience.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about what you do for a living?
Watching people's entire energetic profile shift.
Oof, that's deep.
Yeah. People,
Mm.
people will show up. All of my work is virtual, so I'm meeting people on Zoom or whatever, like these kind of platforms, and people show up and they're just like smiling and happy, and they weren't previously, right? Or people are sending me, notes, just kind of anything is possible. I can do anything. And
Yeah.
to witness someone go from nothing is possible, everything is hopeless, what's the point, to wow, I can do anything, I can be
Mm.
anyone, is like, it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. What brings you profound joy?
Dancing.
Hmm. I can see that, considering you and I have danced in the aisles at conferences together. In fact, you're in the promo video. I don't know if you know that. Like you like laugh and smile and dance and made the promo video for the live version of the
Oh my
masterclass we were
god.
in BBD Live.
I have a face that always make I have a face and a voice
Yeah,
that always makes it into promo videos.
you do. I think you're so stunning and you're so beautiful and you are so unique too. And so all
Thank
of
you.
those things combined make you like a eye-catching moment. That makes sense
Thank,
to me. That
thank you
tracks.
so much. I had the opposite story. I was like, oh, I'm so relatable.
Oh, I'm very girl next door, which I don't mind. It's totally fine. I think it's my charm. It's my superpower. I think whatever makes you uniquely you is absolutely your superpower. So,
Amen.
yeah. Well, how can people connect with you? So, I know you're not as active on social because of the type of work that you
We
do,
got
but
kicked
if people want
off.
to connect, how should they connect with you?
Meta canceled us. They
Yep.
kicked us off. They don't they said we could come back, but honestly, I don't want to hang out at a party that doesn't want me there.
Yeah. Screw
So,
you. See you later.
yeah. So, I right now,
Can you
the
be on the
Ketamine
ticky
Connection.
tick? No,
No,
or not.
TikTok. I was like, I'll just go to TikTok, and then we had the TikTok ban, and I was
Oh,
just
and you're
like,
like, okay, what I meant was I meant to do it my own way, outside the box, my own
God
way of
bless.
doing it. Yeah.
God
So the
bless.
podcast,
The
Ketamine
podcast and
Connections.
Ketamine Connections podcast, through the podcast, anywhere in the show notes. Just subscribe to the email newsletter.
Yeah.
I've been sending
Love
out
that.
energetic reads. So based on working with clients all over the country, most of my clients are US. All my clients right now are US based. I'm working with people from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, and I'm hearing the same thing over and over. And so I started putting that into like little energetic reads. It lives nowhere
Nice.
other than my newsletter.
Love it.
So
So that's where you get the drops.
yeah, because I don't know where to put it. It's not for YouTube. It's not for the podcast. I'm just
Yeah,
like, here, it's a gift to the community.
that's right.
So just hop on the newsletter, and you'll always stay
I
updated.
love that. I'll put the link in there for that too. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, my friend. Like, so great catching up with you and so awesome going deep with this topic. I know the listeners are going to be expanded. Their minds are going to be expanded from this together. So
Oh,
thank you.
thank you, Carrie. You're such a light. Every time I interact with you, it is just like such joyous energy. I'm so grateful for you and for inviting me on the show. And thank you.
Love it. Thank you. We'll talk again soon.
All right, sounds good.